Fools, welcome back to another Formula Fools podcast. I'm David, your guide through the twists and turns, and with me is Skin, who is always arguing with people on our Instagram comments.
Nope. No, I'm not. That is you.
Yeah, that is me.
Yeah.
Well, can't win them all.
No.
From pit lane antics to racing riddles, we're here to make you laugh and question your sanity. Sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools. Oh yeah, go Skin.
Wonderful.
And we're straight back into it. Look at us go. Last week was just a little soft intro back into the Fools.
Yep.
Hard intro this week.
Wonderful.
But before we get on to mine and Skin's predictions from the Grand Prix, we have Ryan with a hot lap recap. I've probably introed that really poorly. We've got Ryan Smith with a hot lap recap this week. Enjoy.
Bella Fools! Welcome to the Hot Lap Recap, folks. Yes, Ryan here, back again to break down all the action from this weekend's Italian Grand Prix. Let's dive in, shall we? Well, Charles Leclerc pulled off an extraordinary home win for Ferrari at Monza, ahead of the McLarens of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Now, Ferrari chose, according to Skin, the only strategy that's worth thinking about. That's right, a one-stopper it was for Leclerc, improvising mid-race to vault him in front of the McLarens, who both chose that conventional two-stopper approach. Now, Leclerc's win was a prime example of how tyre management and strategic bravery can win the day. You see, he started fourth on the grid, but managed to pass Norris on the first lap after the two McLarens battled together for the lead at that second chicane. Gosh, they almost got it right, didn't they? But they left a bit too much space. And Leclerc then managed to overtake Piastri after the McLarens pitted for their second stops. So once again, Lando Norris failed to finish the first lap of a Grand Prix in first after qualifying on pole. Poor lad's like an 85-year-old man, isn't he? He just can't finish. McLaren, though, they looked on course for a 1-2 for half of the race, but their decision to pit left Leclerc leading his teammate Carlos Sainz by just over 10 seconds, with Piastri, though, closing both of them down. Ferrari decided to chance their arm and stick with a one-stop strategy, which actually paid off in the end. Now, I know this is a GP, but didn't the cars just seem faster around the circuit? They did to me anyway. The buzz from those engines, they just tickled me in all the right places. So, Leclerc's lead was enough to keep him in front, and he took one of the most stunning and unlikely victories of the year. The crowd, of course, from Italy as well, and it being Ferrari, they cheered him across the line as he took his second Monza victory for Ferrari after his first one back in 2019. Piastri said, I'm going to do my best Australian accent here, losing out on the win hurts. The position we were in, with the tyres looking like they did, the one-stop seemed a very risky call, but it was the right call in the end. Very happy with the race, but when you finish second, it hurts. That was terrible. Anyway, Norris was disappointed with third, but can still look back on a race in which he gained more points back on Verstappen. And he still has the same task as before, to score on average just under 8 points more per race than the Dutchman to win the title. Behind Sainz, Hamilton was fifth, well ahead of an unhappy and moaning Verstappen. He just reminds me of a bit of a disgruntled llama, don't you think? No? That's the image that comes into my mind anyway when I see him. And to finish off, the second Mercedes of George Russell won a battle with Verstappen's teammate Sergio Perez for seventh. The result leaves McLaren only 8 points behind Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. Will your prediction come true, Dave? Or will Red Bull find a miracle and salvage their season? Well, there's only one thing left to do then, isn't there? And that means join us again next time for the next Hot Lap Recap. I'm Ryan, and I'll catch you next time for more high-speed action back on the track. Back over to you guys in the studio now, Dave and Mitch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's kick things off with Ferrari won in Monza. Hell of an effort. Disco made predictions that Ferrari were going to drop off and be dog shit for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
They've proved me wrong in the last 2 races.
Yep. You've made a lot of shit predictions. Williams are going to win millions of points.
Nah, that's definitely happening. You can't say that that's not happened yet because I said in 26. So
okay.
got 2 years until that one will happen.
Okay. All right. But yeah, no. Ferrari, it was nice to see.
Yeah, I will stand by my prediction that they aren't going to do much. I reckon that'll be the last win that they get of this season.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Isn't there some like conspiracy theory that they just build cars for Monza and Monaco?
Yeah. Enzo used to always say, it doesn't matter. Like he never used to care about the monocoque or the chassis or aerodynamics or whatever. He just used to say, put the fastest engine in the car, put the fastest driver in the car, we'll win the race. And obviously, modern era of F1, that's not the case. But yeah, they usually will always try to aim to do well in Monza. It seems stupid, yeah. I know, yeah. It is stupid, okay. Yeah. But I think Fred's going to turn him around, especially next year. Like, obviously, he's new to the role, so he's not got a massive influence on what has happened this year. Like, he's got some influence, but it's starting to take shape now. We're starting to see him and what he's doing in the team really take shape. And I think next year we'll see them do better and progress up the field. Well,
right.
The field, they're fucking at the top of the field, but like, you know what I mean? Like they'll progress and be more consistent.
Yes. But you're not expecting them to be good for the rest of the year because I guess that was kind of the question. You see them win a race and it's like, these guys, have they got a fast car now?
Yeah.
Is it all of a sudden they're going to be doing stuff, but you think not?
I think they'll be good in Azerbaijan because it's another fast circuit. It's like second or third fastest circuit on the calendar. So I think they'll be good next week. But I think that might be it.
Right.
But I think McLaren might just win Azerbaijan. I don't know. I just look at McLaren and I think every time they make a quote unquote mistake or have a bad race, they then bounce back even better. So I'm expecting McLaren 1-2 in Azerbaijan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And yeah, Ferrari won the race, but probably more because they made one stop at work, really. Yeah. Not necessarily because they had the fastest car. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, very fair to say. They had, if we're going to say like, whoever wins the race has the fastest car, then yeah, they technically had the fastest car. They were definitely up there. They definitely, like McLaren weren't leagues ahead of them. But yeah, their strategy is what won them the race this week, which is weird to say because Ferrari are known for not having the best strategies. But yeah, no, they had an amazing strategy. The drivers just made it work, and that's got them the W.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, wasn't it? Charles was like, it sort of seemed like they fucked up the strategy again when he came out of his first two. He's like, what was that? Why
the fuck did you pick me so early?
Yeah, he's like, if we've been undercut, should we have stayed out? And it was like, I guess it worked quite nicely. Yeah.
And I think when you look at that next to Carlos staying out for longer and then missing out on the podium, I think that's where Ferrari had a bit of a masterclass. Was they pitted him early to just stay within a certain amount of time with the McLaren, so they didn't get crazily undercut like Carlos did. And it worked out well in the end because it meant that even if they had pitted to cover off the McLarens when they did their second stop, they would have been really close to them. So they would have been there or thereabouts still. But they at that point decided, we've got a huge gap here, let's lock in this two-stopper. And I think that was all because of that first pit stop for Charles.
Right, okay. Wait, so why? Yeah, that was one thing I was wondering toward the end of the race. So Ferrari were 1 and 2, both having done a one-stopper. Mm-hmm. Carlos did his stop much later than Charles, right?
Yeah.
Why was he so much slower than Charles toward the end of the race? Shouldn't he have had fresher tyres and sort of been at an advantage? But McLaren were able to overtake him, but not.
Yeah. Yes, he should have had fresher tyres than Charles, but Charles was losing significant time to Lando and Oscar. So like, Charles didn't win the race because he was faster. He just stayed real consistent. Carlos pitting later and having fresher tyres would have helped him in that last stint to be faster than Charles. And I think he still was faster than Charles. The problem was that because he had stayed out in that first stint, all of the people that pitted caught him up significantly. So by the time he pitted, he was then, I think he was like 12 seconds behind Charles.
Right, okay.
At the McLaren second pit stop. So that was, them 12 seconds is basically what lost him the podium. And that's because he didn't pit early on that first stint.
Gotcha. So he probably was faster, but he'd just been undercut too much.
Yeah.
Had too big a gap to make.
Exactly, yeah. So that's what I'm saying is like,
gotcha.
It looked like Leclerc pitting earlier on that first stint wasn't a good option, but actually in retrospect, when you look at Carlos's race, it was a good option because that's what won them the race.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Go Ferrari.
I want to talk about Mercedes a little bit because Mercedes have announced that Kimi Antonelli will be driving for them in 2025, which is fantastic. Great to see such a young talent making it to the grid. However, I'm confused because Toto Wolff came out and said, I made my mind up 5 minutes after Lewis Hamilton told me he's going to Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems strange that he then spent 6 months trying to beg Max Verstappen to go to Mercedes. Do you not think?
I don't. Yeah. I guess. Wait, what did he do in the 6 months? What are you referring to? What sort of stuff was coming out?
There was just so much stuff of Max and his dad. The fuck is his dad's name? Jos. Max and Jos were both just like, oh, there are other options on the table. Mercedes are looking like they're going to be good with the new regulations coming up. And Toto saying, yeah, we'd welcome Max with open arms. And there was just all of that stuff. And then like Lewis said, I think someone asked Lewis, like, do you think Max would be the right fit? And Lewis was like, oh, it's not up to me to say. Like, he's a good driver, like whatever Toto decides or whatever. There was just all this shit of clearly Mercedes were aiming to get Max.
Right.
And Red Bull had to defend like, no, Max is under contract. Max is staying with us, blah, blah, blah. And that's when things started to shift to, oh, we've actually got this junior driver who is elite and he should probably be in the car. Like he was always an option. He was definitely an option. He would have been an option 5 minutes after, but he certainly wasn't number one. Yeah, and Toto certainly didn't make his mind up straight away because he took fucking 6 months to announce it.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's a contradiction if ever I've seen one.
Yeah. Toto just hums like this, like seriously. Like just be like, we're so happy for the future, we can't wait. Like don't throw a fucking statement like that out. Just like Kimi Antonelli is going to like potentially is going to be a world champion. He's a phenomenal driver and he's got such a strong head on his shoulders for an 18-year-old. Like he literally turned 18 like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So like he's going to be good, but don't fucking act like it was, this was my master plan or whatever. Like, fuck off. But apart from that, Mercedes actually looked pretty good again this weekend. They qualified well.
Yeah.
In qualifying, I actually was, I thought they were going to pip the Ferraris, both of them. And compared to Red Bull, all of Ferrari, McLaren and Mercedes were all fucking dominating them, which was great to see. But yeah, Mercedes looking pretty racy. Again, and I reckon we'll see with the new upgrades they've got. I reckon when we get to like Singapore and things like that, I think we'll see them do well on them kind of tracks.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, you don't have any notes on Mercedes?
I did not.
Okay, Williams. Let's talk about the best team on the grid.
Great.
P9 for Alex. Started, finished. P9. 2 points in the bag.
2 points.
2 points.
Woo-hoo.
We are cooking.
What's that? 3 points for the season?
Oh, skin. Nah, it's probably 5.
Okay.
I don't know. Probably 5. But yeah, we're cooking.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff.
And then the super sub of Colapinto, been practicing that one.
Yep.
18th he started, which was okay. Like if he didn't qualify last, I was happy. For him to go from 18th through to P12, like gain 6 positions. I think he gained the most positions throughout out of everyone on the grid.
Did he finish 12th?
Finished 12th.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think Danny Rick had a penalty that he didn't serve, so that added. So he finished 13th, and then Danny Rick's penalty put him up to 12th.
Okay.
So yeah, finished P12.
Nice.
Yeah.
As exciting as that is for Williams, and as much as I'd love to talk about them all day with you and how great the 2 points is, I wanted to ask you about the Danny Rick thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at first I was asking, like, what the heck? How do you manage to not serve a time penalty correctly? Like you literally just have to sit there and do nothing. It sounds pretty easy.
Yeah.
So that was strange. And then you see the replay and old man touches the car and it's like, oh, okay, well that's unfortunate. But what I still don't get is why is that not serving a 5 second penalty correctly? Why is that another 10-second penalty and not just
repeat the 5 seconds?
Well, yeah, just you haven't served the 5 second penalty because you touched the car, so you just still have it. Like it's either serve it at your next pit stop or the 5 seconds is going to get tacked on at the end. Like why would you get penalised for? Because couldn't he have done that pit stop and couldn't he have just chosen to not do the penalty at that pit stop?
No, if you have a penalty and you come into the pits, you have to serve the penalty.
Oh,
yeah, you can't just dodge it and then say, because what you could then do is you could come up with a guru strategy to guarantee, or not guarantee, but you come up with a guru strategy knowing that you're going to be 5 seconds ahead of the person behind, have a 5 second penalty at the end, but not lose a place. So the whole point is, if you're going to enter the pits with a time penalty, the whole point is that you are being punished for that. So you have to serve it. Regardless of what you want to do. It's enforced upon you. I suppose the reason he's got a 10-second penalty the second time is to say, you've made another mistake, so here's a further penalty. But I do see your point. It does seem quite harsh, especially for something so minor. It does seem quite harsh, given a 10-second penalty afterwards. Because like the guy literally touches the fucking car for a second. Like, okay, he didn't serve the penalty correctly, but like a 10-second penalty for that? Yeah, it's not. It's probably not. It's probably a bit too much.
Okay.
So yeah, I do agree with you.
Thanks.
I think it's a bit silly.
Fair enough.
Also, did you see when the guy did touch the car and he was like, oh my God, he was like, ah. Like he was like proper beating himself up for it.
Oh yeah, for sure. You'd be spewing, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Poor bloke.
Poor bloke.
And then sort of on Red Bull, which is kind of related, I suppose. I'd be close enough. The Max. So Red Bull obviously sucked a bit, right?
Yep.
As you touched on, I didn't get sort of Max's strategy where they started on hard tires when everyone else started on mediums. Mm-hmm. Then they've worked out it's going to be a 2-stopper.
Yep.
But still, when they did their first pit stop, still went to hard tires again.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? Wouldn't medium or softs be faster? Wouldn't you just if you know you're going to do a 2-stopper, wouldn't you just want the fastest tire for the next?
Yeah. I don't get why they didn't go on to mediums. They definitely wouldn't go on softs just because them softs were like dying so quickly. Even in qualifying, everyone was like trying to get 2 laps out of it. They were like, fuck, like these are end of the life already after 3 laps or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, they definitely wouldn't have gone softs, but I don't get why they didn't go to mediums. I also didn't understand in the first stint on hards why they pitted on lap 22 because the pit window calculation was like 15 to 21 for mediums. So then them pitting on 22 for hards, okay, degradation was probably higher. Like everyone was pitting slightly earlier than expected, but I don't know. I felt like they could have gone through to 25, 26, really pushed the stint of the hard tires and then gone onto a medium, been fast in the middle and then maybe back to a hard for the last stint or a medium, second and third stint.
Okay.
I didn't quite understand it. And I think that was Red Bull's biggest problem this weekend was that their strategy just didn't seem to have any kind of solid strategy that was going to progress them forward. Like Max went from 7th to 8th. It was a bit of a 7th to 6th. It was a bit of a shit show from Red Bull. And this is what the races like this, if they lose the championship, this race will be one of the ones that they look back on and go, we lost it there. Like they've lost a lot of points in the last few races, but this one especially was a kick in the teeth for them.
Okay.
McLaren, let's go to them now because the people that kicked Red Bull in the teeth are McLaren. And we've got a lot of notes about McLaren. So my first thing about McLaren, I just want to have a little chat to the F1 community and other people that are making F1 content. If just one of them, just a single one person that makes F1 content or is an F1 pundit, if they can shut the fuck up, like seriously, just shut the fuck up about McLaren being like throwing it away or being a big flop or whatever. Like P2 and 3 for McLaren 2 years ago was like winning the fucking Super Bowl. And now they're a flop. They've failed. They suck. What did they do wrong? Their closest championship rival scored 22 points or 23 points less than them, and yet they're a flop. Why is everyone on my Instagram feed fucking hating on them? And in our comments, apparently.
I mean, I probably wouldn't have worded it quite so harshly, but I mean, I also don't.
Skin, I'm not here to make friends. Okay. Just like Williams, we're not here to make friends. We're here to win. Fools, same attitude.
Right.
Williams don't have that attitude.
Yeah, okay. That is a questionable attitude, but yeah, no, I also don't get it. I mean, I would have thought you'd be pretty happy with 2 and 3. They haven't done a ton wrong. What's the thing they did most wrong? Like they probably, in hindsight, should have tried a bit harder to make a 1-stopper work, I guess.
Yeah, I think their biggest problem, and this is what people are focusing on, is that they introduced these papaya rules, which didn't include favouring Lando. And I think that's the problem right now is there's a lot of British content creators and a lot of British people that are like, oh, well, Oscar shouldn't have done that into turn 4. He shouldn't have overtaken him. This is going to cost Lando the championship. But from McLaren's point of view, McLaren are 8 points off of winning, like leading the Constructors' Championship. From the McLaren's point of view, it's fucking great. from Lando's point of view, that sucks. But Lando is not McLaren. He should have defended harder against Oscar. Like, I just don't get it.
No, not at all. Yeah, because even like, so there's that thing that overtake at turn 4 early doors, which is, I don't know, I thought seemed fine. Really,
yeah, great overtake from Oscar.
Yeah,
holy fuck, that was good. But this is the thing: if that was anyone, if that was on Lewis or if that was on Charles or whatever, everyone would be like, "Fuck, what an overtake!"
Yeah, but
it's just that it was on his teammate. People are like, "Oh, why did he do that?"
Yeah, right. Okay,
fucking racing, like, get over it.
Yeah, but then even towards the end of the race, when they have 2 and 3 locked in, people are saying McLaren should definitely swap them around so that Lando gets more points for the driver championship.
Yeah, so he can close it in on Max touch more. Because it would have been, with his fastest lap, it would have been what, like an extra 4 or 5 points, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I just don't like. So people are saying like they should definitely do that. They're so stupid for not doing that. But like why? I just don't get why should McLaren care about the drivers' championship? Like surely the drivers care about the drivers' championship, and then the whole team cares about the constructors' championship. Yeah. And from the team's perspective, once you've got 2 and 3 locked in, and you've maximised how many points you can get for the weekend. Like why would you care who comes 2 and who comes 3?
Yeah.
You just let them race and let the drivers work out the drivers' championship.
Exactly. I fully agree. And I think there's a weird thing in Formula One where people support drivers ahead of teams. And I'm just like, I'm not for it. I've always supported a team ahead of any driver. Anyone that steps into a Williams car is the best driver on the planet. Okay? Like it's fact. The moment they leave Williams, they suck.
Right.
And so I'm very much in the mindset of, if the team are doing well and if the team are getting this amount of points, where the drivers finish, who the fuck cares?
Right.
But I do understand it from a point of, it looks better for the team if they win both drivers and constructors. So from that point of view, doing the most they can for Lando to help Lando win the drivers' championship would have been wise. So swapping them could be a good idea. But also just like, he is quite far behind. 4 points that could be the difference of winning the championship. If he loses by 3 points now, everyone will be like, they should have swapped him in Italy and he would have won the championship. So that's fair. But fucking do better, Lando. Don't lose P1 into turn 1. Don't fucking lose the lead of the race 17 times when you're on pole. It's not 17 times. I'm over-exaggerating to make a point.
He does like doing that.
But like, fucking do better. Like, it shouldn't be McLaren's fault to pick up the pieces for his bad driving.
Right.
That's my point.
Okay. And when you say it looks better for McLaren if they win the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship, like, that's great if it looks better, but does it actually do anything? Like, does the team get more money if the driver wins the Driver Championship or anything like that? Is there any benefit like that? Or is it literally just, that looks nice? I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm sure the winnings for the team is just based on the Constructors' Championship. So it doesn't make any difference. I think it's more just the bragging rights and the kind of like Mercedes dominance with Lewis and Nico Rosberg for the 8 years that they won it. It was always driver and constructor. It was a Mercedes driver. It was a Mercedes constructor champion for 8 years. So it's just like them bragging rights. I just think like for something that just looks nice or maybe gives you bragging rights, it's probably not worth the fuss around of upsetting one of your drivers. And
and this is the problem. We spoke about this a few weeks back. And by a few weeks back, I mean probably 7 months ago because we've not recorded in so long.
Lovely.
We spoke about this a while back. Having 2 drivers that are potential world champions that are really good drivers, it's hard to manage in a situation like this. Had Oscar not been, if that was not Oscar and if it was a Logan Sargent, then they could have easily just gone, hey, Logan, like, get out of the way, let Lando through. And no one would care because Logan is never going to be a world champion. The problem, I think, and also Logan wouldn't have made that move on Lando into turn 4. I think the difference here is that Oscar is a potential world champion. He's a very good driver. He's on the same level as Lando some weekends. And I think that's the difficulty here, is trying to manage these two so that you can potentially move forward and have 2 amazing drivers in your car year on year and not ruining that relationship. If they had come on the radio and said to Oscar, hey, shift out of the way, it's going to damage that relationship.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think, like, I can imagine it would be very hard to manage that situation if they're like racing so much that they're crashing against each other and fucking up the Constructors' Championship, right? Like, that's a problem.
100%. Yeah.
If you're in 2 and 3 and you're both like, I don't know, 2 seconds apart and no one's going to crash and nothing's going to happen, like, surely that's not hard to manage. It's like, hey, just race.
Do what you're doing. Yeah.
Don't get disqualified or break your car.
This is the exact point of Papaya rules, is like, that's what it is McLaren would just go in, you guys do what you want. If Lando, if you want to try and overtake him, go for it. Just don't crash cars. That was the whole point of Papaya rules. It's race each other fair and race each other hard. But the McLaren were just taking the hands off the button and saying like, that's up to you. And that's the whole point of this Papaya rules thing, is that they don't want them to crash, but they don't want to put orders in place to say this person's going to win, this person's going to win, or this person's going to finish second, this person's going to finish third. Like they don't want to do that, and that's kind of the point. Which is, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, they seem like good rules to me.
Yeah, like I'd rather see teammates fucking fight than teammates, but fight fair.
Yeah,
I'd rather see that than them just being like one of them just being a little bitch and the other one just being the fucking golden child that gets everything handed to him. I'm looking at you, Mercedes and Lewis.
Okay, wonderful. Do you think they could have made a one-stopper work?
Nah, they pushed the tyres way too hard.
Right.
You know, like Oscar and Lando were just fucking trading fastest laps.
Yeah.
They were just, they were cooking. I don't think they expected anyone to do a one stop, and so that's why they were pushing so hard.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, but when I said to you on Monday, I was like, there's something in it that you're going to enjoy. It was that Ferrari made the one stop work and they won the race again. I was like, Skin's going to froth this.
Yeah, I did. It just makes so much sense. Hey guys, do you reckon our race would be a bit faster if we didn't stop for 20 seconds more than we have to? The fuck?
A team we didn't talk about in the first part was Haas. And in particular, Kevin Magnusen, one of the Haas drivers. Because in this race, he decided to, how did you put it, Skin? You politely put it as playing bumper cars with one of the Alpine drivers.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I was talking about the Haas team more generally. Because
Hulkenberg did something very similar earlier on in the race.
They had a shambles, wasn't it? So Ricciardo drove into one of them.
Yep.
Was that Hulkenberg?
That was Hulkenberg early doors.
Hulkenberg drives into Sonoda.
Yeah.
Fuck man, these guys are having a tough day. And then Magnussen drives straight into Gasly.
Yeah. Oh mate,
it's just chaos.
Horrific from Haas. I got like halfway through the race, right before the K-Mag Gasly one. I was like, what the fuck are these boys doing? Like, these just don't care today, do they? Yeah, it was bizarre. But yeah, the Kevin Magnussen, Pierre Gasly crash in particular gave Kevin Magnussen a 5-second penalty or a 10-second penalty or something, which in turn gave him 2 more penalty points, which takes his total penalty points in the last 12 months up to 12, which is the maximum you're allowed before receiving a race ban. So obviously, immediately after the race, the stewards, the FIA announced to the world, Kevin Magnussen will receive a 1 race ban and will miss Azerbaijan. He won't be racing there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking to the Haas chap earlier this year, when K-Mag, he received like 2 penalties in that race and got like 5 penalty points overall. I spoke to the Haas chap about it, and I'm sure he said you can put another driver in the car because the car is not disqualified.
Oh.
It's just like a race ban. It's just the driver. So I think they'll still be able to race 2 cars. It just won't be Kevin Magnussen.
Cool.
They've not announced if that is the case or who will replace him, but
Right.
I'd put my money on it being Fittipaldi.
Fittipaldi. Should I know Fittipaldi?
He's just the reserve driver. He's stepped in a couple of times for them over the past few years, and he's all right. He's a good driver.
Okay.
He's not going to crash the car, I don't think. Oh, that may be my strongest prediction.
Nice. Okay.
Cut this up with him crashing if he crashes in Azerbaijan, like turn 1 in the wall.
Yeah. What about so Ollie Behrman's racing for Haas next year, isn't he?
Oh, Ollie Behrman could go Skin. I forgot about Ollie Behrman.
You idiot.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Remember, he's the guy. He's got more points than half the grid. He's only raced once. Yeah. He's the GOAT.
Yeah, Ollie Behrman's probably going to race for them. Oh, I take back everything I just said in the last 2 minutes.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I had a follow-up question. So he's got a contract with them next year, doesn't he?
Yes.
To race.
Yeah.
Could he race for them this year?
Absolutely.
Does he have a contract with them? Or is he still, because he's already raced for Ferrari.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
So he's a Ferrari development driver. And so the reason he's got in with Haas is because Haas have Ferrari engines and gearboxes and a lot of like the mechanical stuff on the car they buy from Ferrari. So they've got a good and long-term partnership with Ferrari. So Ferrari it's kind of like in soccer when players will go on loan to different teams and then the main team they play for will pay for like half the wage or whatever. It's very similar to that. So Ferrari there'll be a financial benefit to Ollie Behrman sitting in the Haas for next year. He's also a fucking guru driver, so it's not just financial benefit. It's also he's guru. But yeah, so like, even though he's under contract with Ferrari, he's done a few FP1s with Haas this year. So if he steps into the car next week, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary. He's probably going to step in the car.
So he
Ignore
could
what I
race
said about Fittipaldi.
for Ferrari early in the season, Haas later in the season.
Yep.
Same season, two different teams.
Yep.
Does that happen?
It has it's happened. Yeah, it has happened before. Max famously moved from Toro Rosso, RB, whatever, the junior Red Bull team, into Red Bull mid-season. So he'd done half a season with Toro Rosso and then moved to Red Bull and did another half the season in Red Bull. So we've seen that a few times, mainly in the Red Bull camp, because they like to fucking move drivers around like crazy. So yeah, it's not unheard of. But it would, in this circumstance, it's a little bit weirder because he stepped in for Ferrari for one race. He'll step in for Haas for one race. So yeah, it is a little bit more bizarre.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Be fucking great to see him jump in the car and get points as well. That'd be fucking. I can't remember how Haas go around Azerbaijan, but Christ, that would be good. So obviously, this race ban. Well, not obviously. If you're new to Formula One, which is kind of the point of this podcast, you are supposed to be new here. We have not had a race ban in 12 years in the sport. So no one has received an actual race ban in 12 years.
That is the least obvious thing.
Yeah,
ever.
I know. Yeah, it's just that it's all over my Instagram. Like the 12-year drought has been broken and blah blah. So I just like
12 years. No
12
one's
years.
had a race ban.
No. The last person was Roman Grosjean in 2012 at Spa, which I'll show you his crash in a minute. It's fucking unreal.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we've not had, and we've had some shit drivers. Like Logan Sargent was in Williams for 2 years.
Easy.
We had Nicholas Latifi in Williams before that, and they didn't get. Well, I mean, we're too far behind everyone to crash into people, though, weren't we? Yeah. Well, but yeah, 12 years, which is crazy.
So race bans. Sorry.
Yep.
Race bans are only for if you get 12 points on your license, or is there any other reason you could get a race ban?
Oh, like I mean, if you were to, if you were to fucking drive directly into a car on absolute purpose, and you know your aim is to destroy that person and that car, then yeah, you're probably gonna receive more than a race ban.
Right.
But nah, like for the reason this system has been put in place is because, especially like Grosjean's 2012 season is very similar to Haas's season, Kevin Magnussen's season in Haas this year, where there's just been a lot of inconsistent driving and a lot of mistakes, crashing into people, going off track. Like all of the things that have led to this race ban is very similar to what Grosjean had that year. Mm-hmm. And it's just ended up with, you know, a few too many incidents, and the FIA then go, you know, you need to sit out. This is a punishment for your shit driving over the last 12 months. Okay. But it's the reason we have this kind of 12-point system in place is to just keep drivers in check of their driving standards, because there's driving standards for all drivers on the grid and how they should battle with each other and you know perform, just like in like NRL or AFL. There's high tackles, there's low tackle, like things like that. It's like there's just things you just shouldn't do because it's dangerous or it's not fair on your other competitors. So it's very similar to that. NRL, I see, like whenever I watch NRL with you boys, I'm always like whenever you talk about like a high tackle or whatever, I'm just always like, is it a high tackle? Is that what I'm thinking of?
That's a thing.
Yeah. Whenever I see it, I'm always just like, that seems like a weird rule, but it also just makes sense because we don't want people to hit their heads and die.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. George Russell is the director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, which is just kind of a union for F1 drivers. But weirdly enough, Grosjean was the president of this club before, and he's also the last person to get a race ban, so that's quite funny. So yeah, George Russell came out and said that he thinks it's positive that K-Mag has received this race ban. He sees it as the system working exactly how it should work, and he doesn't think the rules should be changed. He thinks that him receiving the race ban is just for what he's done this season. And I think that's kind of the view of all of the drivers, Kevin Magnusen included. I think when he got his 10th point, he was like, I'm going to get a race ban this year. You know, I probably deserve it. I've had a few too many accidents. But George also pointed out that if you look over the last 20 years, I don't know how many drivers have been given a race ban. I can only think of one that there has been in the last 20 years. When you compare that to a football, soccer game, people get red cards quite regularly. Red card in soccer means you miss. If you get a red card, you then miss the next, you're not allowed to play the next game or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, so it's very
sent off for that game.
Yeah, you get sent off and then you receive, a match ban, or I think, or maybe it's if you receive 2 red cards in a season or something like. It's a similar kind of system.
Sure.
And it happens all the time. I think the difference is that in football you can play like 40 games in a year or whatever it is, whereas in F1 we have a lot less races. But I think it works well. I agree with what George is saying.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Probably just stop crashing into people, I guess.
Yeah. Tell Kevin that. I'll drop you his number. You can drop him a text. Hey Kev, stop crashing. So I just wanted to point out where Kevin got his penalty points from before we move on to looking at previous people that have been banned in the past. So Saudi Arabia Grand Prix this year, he got 3 points for causing a collision with Alex Albon. Bastard. Chinese Grand Prix, he received 2 points for causing a collision with Yuki Tsunoda. Miami Grand Prix Sprint, he got 3 points for leaving the track and getting a lasting advantage. I think that was against Lewis Hamilton. Can't remember. Miami Grand Prix, the actual race, he got 2 points for causing a collision with Logan Sargent. That was that one where they were like, and then Logan went in the wall, and it was a bit like everyone was, oh, it's K-Mag's fault. Oh, it's Logan's fault.
Yeah, okay.
It was one of them ones. That one, I don't think, the Miami ones, I think were quite harsh on Kevin that weekend. He got them. So that's that. And then the Italian Grand Prix this weekend, causing a collision with Pierre Gasly. 2 points for that one. So that equals 12 points. That's why he's got his race ban. I wanted to now look at other people that have received race bans in the past to just kind of show that it doesn't happen often. Like I said, this is a 12-year drought. And before that 12 years, it was a 15-year gap from the last one to the Roman Grosjean one. So we'll go further back. So we'll start with Nigel Mansell in 1989 in Portugal, received a race ban. Don't really know what for, but he received a race ban. Eddie Irvine, 1994, he received a 2-race ban for San Marino and the Monaco Grand Prix. Mika Hakkinen, also in 94, for the British Grand Prix, he had a race ban. Michael Schumacher in 1994, the Italian Grand Prix race ban. So 94, 3 people got race bans. One of them a double race ban.
Right.
Crazy season.
What was going on in 94?
Fuck no, a hell of a lot. I mean, Senna also died that year.
Okay.
Yeah. But, well, actually, no. This was also the year that, like, a lot of shit was banned because of the Williams in 92, 93. So thinking logically, it could just be that because, like the active... like the ABS systems and the traction control systems were like, there was big restrictions on them because of the 92, 93 Williams just fucking dominating. Maybe that was why. I don't 100% know, but it's probably worth looking into. And then Jacques Villeneuve in 1997. I've already mentioned that one. So that was the last one before Roman Grosjean. We then had 15 years. So we had all of that in the 90s. We had 5 in the 90s, 1 in the late 80s, and then nothing until 2012, which kind of shows that because these point systems and these kind of race ban systems they've been developed over the years and they've been changed heavily. I think it shows that there's been a 15-year drought and then a 12-year drought. I think that shows that the system works really fucking well because it keeps drivers in check and it keeps drivers accountable for safe driving. That being said, let's look at Grosjean's 2012 Spa incident because it is fucked.
Okay. So this was the last crash he had?
This was what led to his race ban. Yeah.
Like just this crash, or like this was the last thing that got him?
This was the last
12 points. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it was a 12-point system. I think that point system came in between then and now. Okay. Right. But this was kind of there'd been a litany of crashes throughout the season. This was just the final straw. Okay. The car that flew over him was Grosjean.
What the heck just happened?
So I think that was Lewis Hamilton. In the McLaren, and then Fernando Alonso, I think, in the Ferrari. Obviously, then Roman Grosjean in the golden black Lotus. So Lewis Hamilton's there's been a jump start as well by Williams by the looks of it.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah, completely forgot that happened. Holy, on the first angle, I was like, wow, that's a good start. Then from Lewis's angle, it's like, no, that's a jump start. Yeah, so he's fucking flying. So Lewis is kind of, he's tried to follow the cars down the title line on the right-hand side. Grosjean has just come straight over and just driven into the side of him. And like Lewis is right up against the grass. He's right on the white line. And Grosjean's just driven into the side of him, which has then caused Lewis to like lose control of his front end, hit the back of him. It's pushed him up the back of a Sauber, I think, and then thrown him over the top of a Ferrari. And yeah, wild.
That is chaos.
Yeah. So that's what led to him getting a race ban.
Okay.
Your reaction there was fucking amazing. That's our social cut up for this week. Go skiing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems fair.
Yeah. But you know, when you look at that and you look at Kevin's crash this weekend, God, Kevin, you could have got a race ban with style, couldn't you? Like, come on. Like, fly across a car or something.
Easy disc.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so after that, Kevin Magnusen won't be at Azerbaijan, but we will be. And by we, I mean everyone else, and we'll be watching from home.
Yes.
I mean, if anyone wants to fly us out to Azerbaijan, Williams, we love you. I know I'm not in a Williams top this week. Let's just imagine this is Alex Albon and not Oscar Piastri. I forgot who I was wearing then.
Great bloke.
If anyone wants to fly us out, you know, we've both got passports.
It's true.
Azerbaijan seems like a cool place.
Our availability is great.
We are supposed to be running a marathon next week, but
That's a problem.
we could dodge that.
That's true.
Anyway, so let's look forward to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Things to look out for. So again, I know I said this about Monza. Surprise winners. We've had 6 different winners in the last 7 or 8 races or something like that, which include Nico Rosberg, Daniel Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen. All of them have had 1 race win at Azerbaijan. Sergio Perez is another person to win, and he's won there twice. Sergio weirdly always goes well here and Singapore. Always fucking dominates.
Okay.
So,
sorry, stupid question.
Yeah.
Where the heck's Azerbaijan?
it's in like, it's like Eastern Europe.
Okay.
It's kind of, I think, near Turkey. It's kind of like Eastern Europe on the border of Western Asia, I think.
I don't know. Nice.
So yeah, Sergio Perez, he usually goes well here. So I'd also say that's something to look out for. But yeah, definitely different winners. So with the season we've had this year, where we've had a lot of people win races, it wouldn't surprise me if we got either a new winner or just a surprise winner. Hard on tires, the track, it's very difficult on tires, as you will see in my top 3 moments from the Azerbaijan history. It wears away tires quite quickly because there's a lot of 90-degree corners, a lot of heavy braking, and a lot of long, fast straights. Which leads me on to my 3rd point to look out for: top speeds. This has got one of the longest straights in F1. Cars here will reach up to 350 kilometers an hour, maybe even higher. I think we recorded the fastest ever top speed in F1 history at this track. I think it was Valtteri Bottas in a Mercedes. So yeah, crazy top speeds, which has led to some crazy crashes.
Yeah, right.
The first moment I want to point out is Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen going down the main straight, both teammates in the Red Bull, crashing into each other.
But he's going to try and dive down. The inside, they have crashed. They've gone into each other. Daniel Ricciardo late braking, couldn't stop in time. Max Verstappen was right in front of him.
Wonderful.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
well
I've
done,
seen
boys.
that before. That is
Yeah,
good. That's
it's
good
quite
gear.
it's quite a common one. I think Max ended up getting the penalty for that. I think he moves twice to defend, and it was fucked. Daniel was, he should have taken the inside, and Max just had some piggish driving there from Max.
Okay.
Yeah. My next one, Max Verstappen again, except he didn't actually do anything wrong here. This was what I mean by tyres being shit. Earlier on in the race, pretty much the exact same crash happened with Lance Stroll, but he had crashed on the left-hand side instead of the right-hand side.
Oh, and that's Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen on the main straight. Leading this race, now out of this race. Sergio Perez leads from Lewis Hamilton. Sebastian Vettel up into the podium places. We saw Valtteri Bottas back in 2018 lose the Azerbaijan Grand Prix with a tyre failure just a few laps from the end. History's repeated itself in 2021, and this year it's Verstappen.
What happened there was basically his rear tyre popped on the main straight, and he would have been doing close to 350 kilometers an hour when that popped, and he immediately just pitched right and hit the wall.
Yeah.
And like I said, very similar thing happened to Stroll. He just went the other way because it was the other tyre that popped. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. And there was huge calls after this race, because there was 2 of the same incident within 5 laps of each other. huge calls for Pirelli that Pirelli didn't bring the right tyres or the F1 didn't do because they were within the tyre pressures. They were they weren't pushing them too far or anything. It was in the range that Pirelli said was safe, and we had 2 tyre failures. So,
okay.
And my last one, my top one, my best moment, I would say, is in 2021. This was the same year as the Max crash. So Max crashed his car. They red flagged it because there was fucking debris all over the track. And then they had to restart. They restarted on a standing start. Checo was in the lead. Lewis Hamilton was in second place. And Lewis was, he probably had the faster car than Checo. So it was going to look like Lewis was going to overtake him and win the race. But it was crucial that Lewis didn't do that for Max's championship.
Gotcha.
And Max being out the race, he was going to lose all these points to Lewis. There was a lot of pressure on the start.
Yeah.
Just keep an eye on Lewis's brakes as well on the right-hand side.
Hamilton alongside him on the front row. Perez gets away well. Hamilton will wheel spin. Sebastian Vettel is coming at them as well. Perez tries to cut off Hamilton, who locks up and goes straight on. Perez leads from Sebastian Vettel, and then comes Pierre Gasly and Charles Leclerc. And Hamilton has gone from second in the race to falling out of the point.
What the heck?
Yep.
What happened?
So
that looks hilarious. Like he just didn't know there was a corner there.
Yeah, genuinely. I was pissing myself so fucking much watching it because I was like, did he just forget to brake and then hit the brakes too hard at the end? At the very beginning of the clip, you'll see his brakes are like almost on fire. They're like overheating too much.
Right.
He came on the radio very soon after and said, I left the magic button on. Yeah, I know. Everyone was like, what the fuck is the magic button? I can't 100% remember what it was, but it was something to do with either something on the brake cooling that would open to like let air into the brakes. And so he basically left this button on, and then as soon as he hit the brakes, his brakes were too hot or whatever, and they instantly just locked. His entire front axle just locked up, and he went straight off. But it was all to do with this button that he forgot to turn off.
Crikey.
Well, that wraps up another lap at the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. It is now your turn to join the Fools family by connecting with us on social media. We are at Formula_Fools on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. Again, we don't use Twitter, so don't go there. And on Facebook, we are at Formula Fools.
Beautiful. You can also leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening. That would be greatly appreciated. Preferably 5 stars, I suppose, but totally up to you. And we will read another review from Apple at some point in the near future when we remember to do that.
We technically read one last week.
Really?
Because last week's was episode 19/20, and in episode 19 we read one, so I just put that in the ending. So it looks like we did a great job last week.
Wow, nice. Yeah. In actual fact, we took maybe 6 weeks to edit an episode.
Yeah. We ended up cutting a lot. We recorded an entire hour-long episode and cut most of it out because it was irrelevant at that point.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Go the Fools.
Go the Fools. Where am I at? You've done rate and review. Go disc. Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. We'll see you next time.